Vandeham Shri Guru Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsam.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the 36th episode of Pariprashna. So, in today's episode, we are going to try and wrap up the glorious Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam by discussing the very last chapter, that is chapter number 10, titled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Have you ever wondered what makes Srimad Bhagavatam the crest jewel of all scriptures? Have you ever wondered what kind of topics are being discussed in Bhagavatam that makes it not just a Purana but a Mahapurana? And what does Bhagavatam have that qualifies it, that makes it so complete that it can answer all the fundamental queries of human life? Well, join us as we explore this rich and profound chapter by way of continuing to inquire from His Holiness Bhakti Padma Saurabh Pracharak Swami Maharaj. So, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
So, Maharaj, usually I start off with the title of the chapter. I'll do the same here. So, this chapter is titled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Now, that's a very bold assertion to make. A single scripture that has answer to all the questions. So, what makes Bhagavatam so complete that it can address any and every essential query of human life?
Krishna personally spoke this Bhagavatam to Brahma, and Brahma gave to Narada. Narada gave to Vyasa, and this way we are receiving this Bhagavatam in Parampara. So who else can know better about this world than the creator of this world? So that is how Bhagavatam becomes the answer to all the questions. Now, any questions which come in our mind, is nothing but doubts about our existence and who is the creator, etc. And now, who else knows better about the answers to these questions than Krishna himself? So Bhagavatam is called Bhagavatam because it is spoken Swami by Bhagavan himself. And you may say, what about the other scriptures? Yes, the other scriptures also answer all the questions. But there is one speciality in Bhagavatam which is not found in the other scriptures. That is Rasabdhim, that is Rasa Tattva. That is why Bhagavatam is called Rasamalayam. So especially questions about the Rasa. Rasa means our relationship with Krishna. That is explicitly answered in the Bhagavatam. In the other Puranas, you have Puranam Panchalakshanam. Means there are only 5 subject matters in the other Puranas. Whereas the Bhagavatam has 10 subject matters. 10 subject matters. So in these 10 subject matters, there are some specialities. That Krishna, description of Krishna, which is Ashray Tattva, that is being described as a separate subject matter than the avatars, that is Ishanukata. Why? Because Krishna is Akila Rasa Amrita Murti. So it is not that there is no rasa in the avatars, it is there. But when it comes to Krishna, the rasa reaches its highest voltage. And that is the reason we are all searching for that rasa, and Bhagavatam contains that rasa. So that's how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also describes that. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, one special subject matter which is not discussed very elaborately in other scriptures. It only mentions that is Raso Vai Saha, Raso Vai Vayam Ladvanandi Bhavati. Upanishads talk about it. And this thing is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam exclusively. That's how Bhagavatam becomes very unique among all the other scriptures.
Wonderful. So Maharaj, usually the format that we follow is first we get an overview of the different sections of a chapter, and in this chapter we have 4 sections, and then we pick and choose any particular topic and do a deep dive, Vichara Mantana, and then we do Anushilanam, practical application, and wrapping up with Brahmastra. But however, the very first section of this chapter is so profound and deep, so I would like to do a Vichara Mantana on this first, and then we will do a brief overview of the rest of the sections. So the very first shloka of this chapter, spoken by Sukadeva Goswami, I'll quote it and then ask. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanamutayah Manvantareshanukatha Nirodho Muktirashrayah. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonum. So, Maharaj, usually we see that when we talk about what is the subject matter of a particular book or speech or article or anything that is, usually we say that in the beginning. So the timing where Shukadeva Goswami is bringing up about these 10 topics, it's neither at the beginning of first canto, not even at the beginning of second canto, but towards the fag end of canto 2. Is there a certain significance to it? Why he is talking about it now?
In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami did not speak at all. It was a conversation between the sages of Naimisharanya and Sutta Goswami. And now in the second canto, Sukadeva Goswami starts speaking. So when he spoke in the second canto, first he answered the question by Sukadeva Goswami. What should we hear? Especially Mremanaya, a person who is about to die. What is his subject matter? What he should hear about? What should he speak about? What he should think about? Then Sukadeva Goswami spoke at Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma. Bhagavan Ishwaro Ishwarotavyaha Kiritavyasya Spartavya Chaichatabha. So then he did the Mangalacharan for the Bhagavatam. And after doing the Mangalacharan of Bhagavatam, then he gave the Parampara of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then after speaking the Parampara of Bhagavatam, then he mentions in the previous chapter that this Bhagavatam, which I am going to speak, has 10 subject matters.
Okay.
So we have the system followed properly. Like when you open a book, there is introduction, there is preface, there is introduction. And then in the introduction, something will be mentioned about the subject matter. There is Mangalacharan. In the Mangalacharan also you have the Vastu Nirdesha. So now then you have the topics of this Bhagavatam. So there is something called Anubandha Chatushtaya. There are 4 aspects of Sambandha, Avideya, Prayojana, Vastu Nirdesha, like that. Adhikari, like that is there. So in that, the subject matters have to be enunciated, means they should be mentioned. So that happens only after the introduction and the glorification of the book, like a preface and introduction. Then the subject comes. If you see even the Bhagavad Gita, wherever any book, first there will be introduction. Otherwise, if you just say subject directly, it is not very interesting. So you have to create a interest in the subjects which are going to be discussed in the book, and then mention the subjects one by one. That is why Sukadeva Goswami does this.
Okay. And Maharaj, is this like a checklist, the 10 topics, like any book, any scripture to qualify as a Purana, that they have to meet this criteria, these topics must and should be discussed in them?
Yeah, as I told before also, Puranam Panchalakshanam. Puranas in general, they have 5 subject matters. But Srimad Bhagavatam has 10 subject matters. That is why, one of the reasons why it is called Mahapurana. The word Mahapurana cannot apply to any other Puranas. It can only apply to Srimad Bhagavatam because it has got 10 subject matters. And the uniqueness is that of Ashraya Tattva, which is the last subject matter, Krishna. Krishna is being discussed uniquely and distinctly in Srimad Bhagavatam. Whereas in other Puranas, Krishna and other incarnations are put together and discussed.
Okay. Is there a certain flow, Maharaj, that these topics evolve from one to the other? Is it sequential? Are they standalone? So how does this become like a blueprint for the rest of the Bhagavatam?
Actually, all the subject matters are described in all the cantos of Bhagavatam. But still, some cantos uniquely discuss about a particular subject matter. Like the first and second canto, all the subject matters are described. In the third canto, we find Sarga, the first subject matter. The fourth canto, the second subject matter. Fifth canto, the third subject matter. The sixth canto, the fourth subject matter. Like that. And then when it comes to 10th canto, the 10th subject matter is discussed. And in the 11th canto, 8th subject matter, and 12th canto, the 9th subject matter is discussed. So the subject matters are very, there is a series in that. The series is not exactly the way we think of first canto this subject, second canto this subject, third canto this subject. Because Bhagavatam has got 12 cantos. And then there are 10 subject matters. So how will you fit that?
Yeah.
It's not possible. How will you fit that when you start with the third canto? Third canto is Sarga, fourth canto is Visarga, fifth canto is Sthanam, sixth canto is Poshanam, seventh canto is Uti, eighth canto is Manvantara, ninth canto is Ishanukata, 11th canto is Nirodha, 12th canto is Mukti, and 10th canto is Ashraya. But that doesn't mean the other subjects are not there in other cantos. It is there. But primarily you'll find like that. Of course, there are different opinions for different people, different acharyas, but this is primarily accepted and this is how it is.
Okay. So Maharaj, Srimad Bhagavatam is qualified not only as a Mahapurana but Amala Purana. So how do these 10 topics contribute to the status of Bhagavatam as Amala Purana?
Good question. Actually, what is the meaning of Mala? Mala means Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The four subject matters of the Vedic literatures are the Purusharthas. These four Purusharthas have been described, have been considered by Bhagavatam as Mala. Mala means dirt. So in the other Puranas, primarily these are the these four subject matters are being discussed as main subject matter. They consider the other Puranas, they say, by studying this thing, you will get this thing. By studying this thing, you will get this thing. In this way, it is more of karmic in nature or dharmic in nature. They are not talking about prema directly, though there is a hint given, but it is not directly spoken. That is why Narada, he tells Vyasa that, hey Vyasa, it is nice that you have written all the Puranas, but yatha dharmadyascharthaha muni varyanu kirtitaha natata vasudevasya mahimaya nuvarnitaha. You have very nicely described in many Puranas, but most of the descriptions of the Puranas are regarding dharmadaya chartha, means dharmadaya means dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You're only mostly spoken about these four things, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You're not really discussing Vasudeva Katha Mahima, Vasudeva Mahima. But you have to write one book where Vasudeva Mahima is Anuvarnitaha. Now the question comes in the Bhagavatam, if it should only Vasudeva Katha, it should be only 10th canto. Krishna Katha should be there. Why the other 9 cantos are there? The other 9 cantos are there only to bring a person to realize the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. And that is what is described in the second verse of this second canto, 10th chapter we are discussing today. Dasamascha Vishuddhyartham Navanam Ihalakshanam Paranayanti Mahatmana Sudena Arthena Danjasa. The 9 subject matters which have been described, or in one sense, other sense, you can say the other cantos of Bhagavatam are only meant to understand the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, which is discussing about the 10th subject matter, that is Ashrita, that is Krishna. So you may say in the Bhagavatam, why, how to understand other verses which are talking about some lady playing with a ball and all these things are described in the Bhagavatam. Or some son, he went to the forest, when he came back, then he was given his father as a share, the property. Property were taken by the other sons, and the brother was given the father as his share to take care of the father. So all these things are nothing to do with Krishna Katha directly. So that is how you should understand. These things have to be understood in connection with Krishna. Now, when you read the Krishna's pastimes in other Puranas, Prema will not manifest. But in Bhagavatam, when you read about Krishna, Prema manifests. In this way, there are many distinctions between the other Puranas and the Bhagavatam. Basically, one biggest mala in other Puranas is that to consider Mukti is superior to Bhakti. Whereas the Bhagavatam, right from the beginning, it asserts that Bhakti is superior to Mukti. That's why Bhagavatam it's a special position among all the Puranas. That is why it becomes Amala Purana. Even Bhagavatam Purana Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. That is why it becomes Priya to Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas consider only Krishna Prema as a Purushartha. So, whatever verse is there in the Bhagavatam, it should be seen with that this is going to only nourish Krishna Prema. That's how it should be understood.
Okay. So, Maharaj, that's a good segue. You already quoted the second verse of this chapter. So, Prabhupada also says the first 9 cantos, anybody studies sincerely, systematically, will be already self-realized and they can enter the 10th canto, Ashraya Tattva. So, is it a prerequisite that somebody should already study the previous? Because once you already said Bhagavatam is like a sweet laddu, anywhere you bite it is sweet, you can read. But here we are saying that these 9 topics are helping us evolve spiritually and enter 10th canto with the proper mood. So how do we understand this?
When Srila Prabhupada said that, he is specifically keeping some people in mind who are professional reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam.
I see, okay.
Who try to entice people speaking about the 10th canto of Bhagavatam without they themselves being qualified and the others also not being qualified. So he is keeping them in mind. Who say only 10th canto will talk about, other cantos will not talk about it. But we should also know that Srila Prabhupada wrote Krishna book, which is nothing but the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he distributed it profusely. So why did he do that? If he wanted everybody to read the first 9 cantos, then only come to the 10th canto. He wanted Bhagavad Gita to be distributed along with the same thing. He should have distributed 10th canto of Bhagavatam. Why Srila Prabhupada wrote the 10th canto of Bhagavatam in a summary study? Because he had severe sickness. Then he thought that if I leave my body without completing the purpose of my 10th canto of Bhagavatam, then people would not get the essence of Bhagavatam. And that's why he desperately wrote the Krishna book, which is a summary study of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. So in this way, we know that Srila Prabhupada wanted everybody to read the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. But knowing that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also knowing that this material world is futile, the purpose of our first 9 cantos of Bhagavatam is just one. To know that Krishna is Supreme Enjoyer, number 1. Number 2, even though you're the king, any kind of king like Dhruva or Prahlad or Priyavrata or anybody, there's everybody you have to give up.
Mm.
You have to give up. All these things are not going to satisfy.
Mm.
So these two concepts, they are very clear. Then Krishna Katha you can relish. Krishna Katha is Nivritti Tarshe Rupagiyamanat. A person who has Krishna Katha or one who relish, if you want to relish Krishna, you should be Nivritti Tarshe.
Mm.
You should be relieved of Trishna. Otherwise, very difficult to, or it's not possible to relish the 10th canto of Bhagavatam.
Mm.
So when he said that one has to go through all the 10th cantos and come to first 9 cantos and go to the 10th canto, he is specifically talking about those who are exploiting for selfish interest.
Mm.
So that has to be understood in that particular context.
Got it. Okay, Maharaj. So, Maharaj, in the next few verses, Sukadeva Goswami briefly touches upon these topics. But before we get into that, is there any connection between these 10 topics and Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana?
Yeah, there is a connection between Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Prayojana is the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. And others are basically Sambandha. Sarga, Visarga, Sthana, Poshana, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Nirodho, Mukti. They're all basically Sambandha Jnana. Once you know the Sambandha, then you know Abhideya is interwound in them.
Okay.
In the sense that like Dhruva Maharaj, when you hear about Dhruva Maharaj, how he practiced Bhakti. When you hear about Prahlad Maharaj, how he practiced Bhakti. So Abhideya is interwound in that.
Okay.
But Prayojana is Krishna Prema. That is the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. Of course, even in the other cantos of Bhagavatam, you have Krishna Prema. Because one who is experienced in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Vedanta, he even talks about the incarnations in attained Krishna Prema. How is it so? I'll give you a small example of Gita Govinda. Gita Govinda is a very high Prayojana Tattva scripture which talks about Radha Krishna Prema, Rasa Krida. Now, in the beginning of Gita Govinda, the first stotra which Srila Jayadeva Goswami writes is Dashavatara Stotra. He writes Dashavatara Stotra. Now, why he has to write about Narasimha, Vamana? The subject matter is Krishna. Radha Krishna, where he culminates, where Krishna falls at the feet of Srimati Radha and says, and my mind is reeling, you just had to keep your dust at the lotus feet of your, keep your lotus feet on my head. Dehi Padapallam Udaram. So that's how the Gita Govindam reaches to the climax, where Krishna is begging to Radharani to keep her feet on his head. Now, why Pralaya Payodi Jare? That's the question. The answer to that is that when you read Pralaya Payodi Jale, a Rasika Bhakta understands, just see this Krishna who has killed Hiranyakashipu, who has made his legs so high, all the demigods are paying to his lotus feet. And that Krishna is falling at the feet of Radharani. So that's how when the Rasika Bhaktas in the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaudiyas, when they hear the opulence of Krishna, just see this opulent Krishna is falling at the feet of Srimati Radharani. That's how even Aishwarya, that is all the first 9 subject matters of the Aishwarya of Krishna. That is to understand Krishna through the material world, that is external energy. There are 2 energies of Krishna in this world, Para. The Para Shakti is the Jiva. The analyzing Jiva to understand Krishna, analyzing the Apara Shakti, that is the material nature. There's only 2 ways by which to understand Krishna. That is why the 9 subject matters are nothing but the analyzing the absolute truth through the external energy of the Lord. That is how it is when Sarga Visarga comes. And so when you know that this Krishna from whose sweat pours millions of universes are coming, and now that Krishna is jumping around in Vrindavan, and then the gopis say, dance just to get some sweet. He's dancing. So when the Gaudiyas, when they read those pastimes of Krishna, showing his Aishwarya, or his pastimes related to this world, they also are experiencing the sweetness of Krishna.
Excellent, Maharaj. Very nice. So, Maharaj, I'll quote third shloka now. Bhutamatendriya dhiyam janma sarga udahritah brahmano guna vaishamya dvisargah paurusha smritah. The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, namely the five elements fire, water, land, air, and sky, sound, form, taste, smell, touch, and the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind, is known as sarga, whereas subsequent resultant interaction of the modes of material nature is called visarga. So, Maharaj, what is sarga? What is visarga? What is the distinction between the two?
So it's very quite simple as it is described here, because the way Sukadeva Swami he talks about sarga visarga, that should be understood. It's explained in a very simple way. Bhuta matrendriya dhyam janma sarga udahrataha brahmano vaishanyad visarga porjas. Now, the creation of the elements by Vishnu, Mahavishnu, that is known as sarga. So, bhuta means Panch Mahabhutas. Matra means Tan Matras, that is the object to the senses. Indriya means working senses and the knowledge gaining senses. So you have bhuta means Panch Mahabhutas 5. Tanmatra is the object of the senses, sense objects, it is 5, 10. And Indriyas are 10, 5 working in 5, 5 knowledge gaining senses. Bhutamana dhyam, including the mind, becomes 11, that is 21. Dhya means, that is intelligence. So manifestation of these elements, janma sarga utarta. Then after creation of the elements, then Brahma is born from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So what does Brahma do? He uses those elements in creating his 14 planetary systems. So one who creates this world is Brahma. But who created the ingredients for Brahma to create this world? So that person is Vishnu. So the creation of Vishnu is known as Sarga, and creation of Brahma is known as Visarga.
Okay.
So Brahma is Guna Vaishamyat. Visarga, that is using the elements created by Vishnu. Brahma carried out the creation of giving the bodies to the living entities. That is the distinction between Sarga and Visarga.
So, Maharaj, these two, Sarga and Visarga, the process of primary and secondary creation, is this ever complete or is this like perpetual? It's an ongoing cycle.
According to the Vedic system, philosophy, the time is circular. It is not linear. It goes on. So there is no end to it. It's all going on. Every time there is a cycle which goes on. Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali. And that goes on for, say, 1000 cycles. That becomes one day of Brahma. And Brahma lives like that for a month and year and 100 years.
Okay.
Then Brahma, he leaves the body. Then again there is creation like that.
Okay. So in the next verse, fourth verse, Stitir Vaikunta Vijayah Poshanam Tad Anugrahah Manvantarani Saddharma Utayah Karma Vasanah. The right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work. So in this verse, 4 topics are being mentioned: Sthanam, Poshanam, Manvantara, and Uti. We'll take one by one. So Maharaj, in talking about Sthanam, what is the significance of the 14 planetary systems within Sthanam, the universal order?
Sthana means the creation, the 14 planetary systems of Brahma after creation.
Okay.
Giving the position of a living entity for a living entity according to its karma. somebody is to be in Swarga, somebody in Janaloka, Tapaloka, and somebody is in the Bhuloka, in this particular place, according to their karma, giving a particular place, sthana. So by giving this sthana, the living entity is given opportunity to experience his karma. At the same time, he can use that opportunity to come back to God. So in this way, the Lord, he shows the material mercy of the Lord. Of course, mercy of the Lord is always spiritual. Lord is spiritual. But something called material mercy means that the mother takes care of the child in two ways. One is to give roti kapada makan. She feeds the child, gives nice clothes, make a good place to sleep, and then allows to plays with him also. At the same time, the mother, she makes the child study, maybe sometimes beat the child so that he can study nicely. So these are both of the mercy of the mother. One is the material mercy, in the sense that to give roti kapda makan. So to give a place to the living entity so that they have something to something where they can experience their karma. They get a place to stay, they get food, they get water, they get air. According to their karma, they get a place to stay and a particular family. These are all known as mercy. This is also mercy of the Lord. By our house, it is not because you are so great that you are qualified, you got this house. No, it is mercy of Krishna, you got a house to stay. You got food to eat. Many people don't get food to eat. Many people are there who don't have a house. Why? Because mercy of Krishna, you got it. And on the other hand, another mercy of Krishna, which is now Poshana, that is spiritual mercy. So this is how Sthana and Poshana are distinguished. So he is called Vaikunta Vijaya, Stitir Vaikunta Vijaya. Sthana is also called Sthiti. You should know these 10 subject matters are being described by Sutta Goswami also in the 12th Canto of Bhagavatam. But he gives a different order and he gives different names. Like the Ashriya Tattva is mentioned here, but there it is Raksha. So names are different, but mostly all similar. Ultimately, he also gives 10 subject matters there. So, Stitir Vaikunta Vijaya. Why Vaikunta Vijaya is why Sthiti or Sthana is called Vaikunta Vijaya, the victory of Lord Vaikunta. One of the names of Krishna is Vaikunta because he destroys the suffering of the jivas. Jaya means victory over. So how can this be called victory? Yes, the living entities, they have revolted against Krishna. That is why they are in the spiritual world. But still the Lord wants to revive their eternal relationship with him. And for that sake, he created this world. That is the reason Vaikunta Vijaya is called Vaikuntasya Vijaya, the excellence of the Supreme God. What is the excellence of Krishna? That is his extreme compassion. So now the creation of this world and also the creation of 14 planetary systems, and now placing the living entities and giving their karma, means according to their karma, giving them the facility in spite of their revolting. That is the real excellence of Krishna, the real victory of Krishna. What is that real victory of Krishna, excellence of Krishna? It is compassion. We should see the world, creation of this world as compassion of Krishna. Thakur in Bhakti Sutta, he says, Karunyam Tat Kriya. Tat Kriya, the creation of this world is nothing but the Karuna of Krishna.
What a fantastic explanation, especially like how you drew parallels between material mercy and spiritual mercy of Krishna. So Maharaj, focusing on the Poshanam, how does the Lord's Poshanam protection manifest even during calamities?
So what is the meaning of Poshanam? Poshanam tad anugrahat. So we should know Poshana means his real mercy, that is to make sure that the conditioned soul is getting opportunity to take a spiritual life and come back to it. That's called Poshana. Like the mother also does Poshana, but two kinds of Poshana. One is food, other is education. So food is for the body, education is for higher purpose. The same way, the Lord provides food to the living entities. That is for the body. But for the soul, that is Bhakti. So Poshana is actually Bhakti. Now if you see in the 6th canto of Bhagavatam, Poshana is described.
Right.
So this Poshana is the 6th canto of Bhagavatam. And 6th canto of Bhagavatam is the heart of Krishna. The 12 cantos of Bhagavatam are compared to the different body limbs of Krishna. Pado yadiyo pratamadvitiyo tritiya turyo katito yaduru navistata panchame vashashto mujantarando vyagulvitanyo antastu rajan navamo yadiyo ukara vindam dashamam prapullam ekadaso yastalata pattam shiro vidvadaseva bhati. So the first two cantos are the feet of Krishna. The 3rd and 4th canto are the thighs of Krishna. 5th canto is the navel of Krishna. 6th canto is heart of Krishna. Now, when you love someone, what you do? You embrace heart. So the 6th canto talks about Poshana, like mother nourishes the child. The same way, the Lord nourishes the living entities by his love for them. That is called Poshana. That is, love means Bhakti. By giving an opportunity for doing Bhakti, so the Lord Krishna is actually doing Poshana. If you see Sthana means the previous subject matter. That is the position of the living entity in the 14 planetary systems. The 5th canto. 5th canto is the Nabhi of Krishna. So the Nabhi comes a lotus flower, and the name of the Nala has got the 14 planetary systems. So there is a connection between the 10 subject matters of Bhagavatam and Bhagavatam is a form of Krishna, the different angles of Krishna. Yeah.
Very, very nice. So Maharaj, you talked about Poshanam, Bhakti, mercy, love, so many things. So is Krishna's Poshanam or protection only for his devotees, or does it extend for all beings?
Yeah, he protects according to the wish of the living entities. Some people would come and ask Krishna, I just want some material benefit. Krishna gives them. If Krishna comes and says that I want bhakti, then he makes sure that his bhakti is nourished. So he is ready to give Poshana for everyone, but what to do? People don't take it. But he is willing to do Poshana for everyone.
Okay. So Maharaj, talking about Manvantara, why are the reigns of various Manus important in Bhagavatam?
Because Manus are the kings who protect Manvantarani Saddharma. So Krishna, though he establishes Bhakti Saddharma, but still you require somebody who executes, makes sure that everybody follows Saddharma, especially those who are in the human form of life. So the religious conduct, code of conduct that has to be executed by some Kshatriyas. So Manvantarani Saddharma, during the Manvantara, what different Manus they are described, how they acted on behalf of the Supreme Lord to execute the will of the Lord. Saddharma. That's why Manvantara is there.
Okay. So Maharaj, moving on to the next topic, that is Uti, inclination or impulse of living beings. What are the different types of Uti?
Uti means impetus, like you want to do something. When you do something, there is some impetus behind. There is some force which makes you to do something. You're going somewhere to buy something because the force is hunger. I'm hungry, so I have to buy something in the market so that my wife or somebody can cook it and then eat. You go to the office, you don't want to go, but still you go. Why? Because you have to run the house, you have to earn money. That's called Uti. The inspiration to do something is called Uti. The impetus to do something is called Uti. Now there are two kinds of Utis. That is the divine Uti, and other one is demoniac Uti. So the seventh canto talks about Uti.
Okay.
You have Hiranyakashipu and you have Prahlad. Prahlad's Uti was divine because he had association with Narada. So when you're associated with a great devotee like Narada, then your Uti is divine. And on the other hand, you had offended four Kumaras, Jai Vijay. That is why they had Uti, which is demoniac. So you should know that the importance of a person is very simple. Association with the Mahabhagavata gives you divine Uti. And offense towards the Mahabhagavata gives you the demoniac Uti. Impetus. Okay. So that's the only way to make a person good. That is to make them serve the devotees. When you make a child or anyone serve devotees, then the divine Uti manifests in them. So all the impetus is divine, the activities will also be divine.
So how does one understand one's own Uti? So how do I understand what is my Uti, what is my impetus?
What you are doing, depending on what you are doing, with what intention you are doing. What you are doing and what intentions you do. Okay. So if you're doing divine activities, Krishna conscious activities, then your duty is divine. And also if your intention is to please the Lord, that duty is divine. If the intention, if the activities are cheating someone, telling lies and gambling, so then it is demoniac Uti. Even though you're doing some so-called charitable work, if the intention is to get some main name, fame, glory, etc., then that is called demoniac Uti.
So Maharaj, you talked about the importance of sadhu sangha. You talked about serving a Mahabhagavata can transform into divine Uti, and offending one can transform into demoniac Uti. So is there only free will involved here, or sometimes does Krishna transgress the free will and he himself will change one's Uti?
Yeah, free will is always there. That is why we can choose between divine and demoniac. Isn't it? If you don't have free will, then what is the use of talking of all these things everybody has? We have many people who are born in demonic families, very demoniac. Jamil, you see what he did. He chose to chant the name Narayana. So that's why the devotees, they travel around and preach Krishna consciousness, so that they come in contact, those people who come in contact with them, and they get an opportunity to hear from them, serve them, and develop divinity. That's called Gyata Sukruti. Okay. They distribute that.
Okay.
Rath Yatra is coming now. So they get some prasad, some devotee does book. So they come in, millions of people come in contact with them. There's divinity.
Nice. So Maharaj, quoting the fifth shloka now. Avataranucharitam hareshchasyanuvartinam pumsam ishakatah prokta nanakyanopabrihmitaha. The Science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and his different activities together with the activities of his great devotees. So Maharaj, talking about Ishanu Katha, I find it really fascinating that Sukadeva Goswami is calling it the science of God and his incarnations. He's not referring to them as just stories or pastimes, but rather signs of God. Why so?
Avataranucharitam hareshchasyan varnitam pumsam ishakata prokta nanakhyanopabrihmita. So anyhow, everything is science. The science of soul, science of Supreme Lord, science of avatars, science of the... Now we should know what is the meaning of science. Science means that it's something practical. you have some theory, and then when you apply, that's called practical. The Lord's pastimes are practical. Some people ask this thing, how is it that just hearing about Krishna is practical? What is practical in it? Now we should understand the word practicality being It's very famous, but it's actually ignorance. When you say practicality, it means that you want some engagement with the modes in which you are in. It's called practicality. And that is a thing which the Karmamamsa philosophy explains. It's very antagonistic of Vedanta philosophy. The Karmamamsa philosophy, it says that in the Vedas there are descriptions of Krishna and also certain practical instructions. You should take bath early in the morning. You should do this. You should do this sacrifice. Now they say the descriptions of Brahman, descriptions of the Lord, like say one verse in the Upanishad which comes tad-dejati, tad-nejati, tad-dure, tad-dvantike, tad-dejati, tad-nejati. The Lord walks and he doesn't walk. Tad-dure, he is far and the same time near. Very nice to hear about it. But what's so practical in that? So the practical instructions in the Vedas, they are more important than these theoretical descriptions. And to hear such things is very interesting. But it is because most of the people are influenced by ignorance. That is why they think practical is more important than theoretical.
Wow.
What kind of practical are you going to do if you don't have the theory? You don't attend a theory class, go to the practicals. What do you do? Even if you get to do some experiments, but you may get the results also, you may get passed also in practicals. But if you don't know the theory, you don't know the science behind. So science is actually practical. So the practical application of science means actually in one sense theory. Theory of science. Practical application of theory is science. So theory is actually main thing. If theory is not there, then what kind of application we are going to do? That's to be understood.
So the sixth verse now. Nirodosyanushayanam atmana saha shaktibihi muktir hitvanyatharupam swarupena vyavastitihi. The merging of the living entity along with his conditional living tendency with the mystic lying down of the Mahavishnu is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross and subtle material bodies. So Maharaj, if you can explain us what is Nirodha and Mukti as explained in this verse.
No, Nirodha is not Mukti. So many people, they think that committing suicide is liberation. That is why people commit suicide. They think, I'm so much troubled, I'm suffering like anything, let me commit suicide. So I'll become Mukta. So it's as a philosophy coming from frustration. That's how the Buddhists also, they want to stop their existence. And materialistic people, they at the gross level, it is stop the existence, my existence in the body, or stop existing by killing the body. The Buddhists say, stop existing by killing the soul. The philosophy is coming from frustration, tamoguna, because they consider that mukti and nirodha both are same. Nirodha is mukti, nirodha is not mukti. Nirodha means how the Lord manifests this material world. That is called nirodha. It's called nirodha. Unmanifestation material world is called nirodha. And mukti means getting out of this world, getting out of the cycle of birth and death. That is called mukti. And when you get out of the cycle of birth and death, that is, where do you go then? That is why Bhagavatam gives a very clear understanding of the word mukti. It says, mukti hitvanyatha rupam surupena vasthiti. Hitva means to give up. Anyatha rupam. What is anyatha rupam? I am man, I am woman, I am Brahmin, I am Kshatriya, I am engineer, I am doctor, I am black, I am white. These are anyatha rupam. Soul is neither Brahmana nor Kshatriya. The soul is neither European or a Westerner or an Indian. Soul is soul. Soul is soul. We have misidentified ourselves as I'm a woman, I'm a child, I'm old, I'm tall, I'm short. So giving up all these kinds of rupas, identification. Rupa means identification. And being situated in Swarupa, Swarupena Vyavasthiti. And what is Swarupa? Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishna Nityadas. That is Swarupa. So to be situated and constantly being engaged in serving Krishna, you can be liberated even in this world. So people think that liberation is only after death. There is one misconception which religious people have. And materialistic people, they think that the death is liberation. So both are wrong. It may happen that after death also you may not be getting liberation. And it may happen that somebody who is living still may be liberated because he is serving Krishna 24 hours a day. Yasya haredatya karmana manasa gira nikilas vyavasthasu jivanmuktasya uchyate. Somebody is serving Krishna but body, mind and speech, then nikilas vyavasthasu, even though he is living, he is liberated.
Very nice distinction between Nirodha and Mukti, Maharaj. So now the seventh verse about Ashraya. Abhasascha nirodhascha yatostyadhyavasiyate sa ashrayah param brahma paramatmeti shabdhyate. The Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the supreme source of the cosmic manifestation as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the supreme fountainhead, the absolute truth. So, why is Krishna called the Ashraya of the Ashraya, the ultimate shelter?
The word which has been used here is Abhasascha nirodhascha yato sti adhyavasiyate sa ashraya parabrahma paramatmeti shupyate. And also the description is that is Satma Swa Ashraya Ashrayaha. He is Ashraya for the Ashraya. Swa Ashraya Ashrayaha. Other one is he is dependent on himself. One way of telling that he is independent. Other way of telling is that same thing is he is dependent on himself. That is independent. In this world, everybody is dependent on something or other. Krishna has created the system, that is the system of interdependence. That is why your desire. The very fact that we have desire is that shows that we are interdependent. Otherwise, why there should be desire if you are dependent on yourself for happiness? For happiness, we are dependent on somebody else or something else in this world. So to think that I am independent is foolish. There's only one person who is independent, it's Krishna. That is why it's called Swashraya Ashraya, because he is dependent on himself. He doesn't depend on something else for his happiness. That's why it's called Swashraya Ashraya. For example, you're a teacher and you have a book and students. Then only you're a teacher. If you don't have students, even if you have the book, what is the use of it? You're a teacher, students are there, no book is there. What kind of teaching will do? As students are there, book is there, teacher is not there, then what is the use of this? The book without the teacher. And the book is there, and students are there, and there is no teacher. How is it going to happen? So, example is given that of the sun, the object, and eye. You have the eyes, but you don't have any object to see. Sun is there, eye is there, what is the use? You have the object, you have the eye, no sun, what is the use? You have the object and the sun, there is no eye, what is the use? In this way, there is a mutual interdependence. The triangular dependence, system of dependence has been created by Krishna. That's how the soul has been created. For But whereas Krishna is beyond this interdependence, the system of interdependence is beyond that. That is why he's called Adhyatmikoyam Purushaha Swasvyadi Devikaha. Yes, Tatra Ubayaha Vichedaha Purushohi Adibhautikaha. And then Ekamevata Ekam Ekatara Bhave Tan Upalamahe Triyam Tatrayo Veda Satma Ashraya Ashraya. Tritiyam. Three means three. What are the three? There is Adi Bhautika, Adi Atmika, Adi Bhautika, and the Devika. Because the definition varies according to the circumstance. But we should know, Yasya Adhyatmikoyam, Adi Atma means the living entity or me. And Adi Adhyatmikoyam Purushaha Sosyadi Devika, the controller, is the sun. I have I, and the controller of I is sun. And Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika is Tatrayo Vichedaha. So what is the thing which actually distinguishes between me and the sun? That is a body. I have a different body. So object. The I, the sun, and the object. So in this way, you have nice, wonderful easel. That is the way to paint canvas. But there is no paint. What is the use? You have paint and easel, no canvas. What is the use? Your canvas, you have paint, but no easel. What is the use? So the system of interdependence is everywhere. So that is how we become humble and Krishna conscious when you understand that that I cannot do anything independently. Unfortunately, everybody thinks that I'm independent. They think that I'm God. Even God is independent, but doesn't feel that he is independent. We are dependent, but still we feel that we are independent.
Wow. Maharaj, you're so proficient in the verses that actually I quoted 7th verse, but I mentioned this Swa Ashraya Ashrayaha from the 9th verse. But you very nicely caught on to that. So hats off to you. You're so well versed. Although I made a mismatch of the shloka I quoted and what I mentioned, you were able to nicely pick it up from the right verse. So Maharaj, everybody, like soul, you had told that we can never be without ashraya. We always need some shelter. But right now, many of us are seeking the shelter of my own body, my mind, my people, my material assets, my country, my this, my that. So, how does the study of Bhagavatam help me make that shift from my soul seeking the shelter in these material so called securities to actually Krishna, who is the real and ultimate eternal shelter?
Yeah. By studying Bhagavatam. And also, if you have experienced, enough about this material world,
Yeah.
if you're intelligent and experienced, whomever you trusted, they all cheated you. Not because they wanted to cheat you, because they cannot. It's impossible. Because you cannot be dependent on a person who is dependent on somebody, who is dependent on somebody. Just imagine something happens somewhere, then the entire thing collapses. The war is happening between Iran and Israel, but the oil prices are rising in India, around the world. So you have nothing to do with that, but still you're dependent. So whatever happens anywhere, it will affect you. Because you're not dependent on the absolute person who is independent.
Okay. So, Maharaj, the next major section of this chapter is shlokas 10 to 35, where Sukadeva Goswami is elaborately talking about Sarga. Again, our favorite Virat Rupa, who keeps coming every so often. There is a different version of him here. So, if you can briefly tell us about this section, about how the different limbs of the Lord's body are associated with specific deities and elements. So, how should we understand this correspondence?
Because Sukadeva Swami had promised Parikshit Maharaj, I will explain to you what you asked concerning how this universe came from the universal form. In the previous chapter, 9th chapter, 46th verse, Sukadeva Swami told, Yad Udaham Taya Prishto Virajat Purushaditam. So I want to, you ask, that is why I'm going to speak to you. So, yes, I'll speak to you about I've spoken to you about the Leela avatars, which is concerning the Krishna's pastimes with the Chit potency, Chit Shakti. But at the same time, I want to speak to you about Krishna's pastimes with the Maya Shakti of the Lord, that is, material energy of the Lord. Krishna's pastimes with material energy. Now, somebody may say, hey, why are you speaking about all these things? Yes, this scripture, Bhagavatam, not only speaks about Krishna, Bhagavan, though he is the main subject matter, it also speaks about the impersonal aspect of the Lord Brahma, Paramatma. That is why it is described in the beginning, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti shabdate. So in this way, Krishna is completely full of sweetness. And he has got sweet forms, sweet qualities, sweet pastimes. And he manifests and he contains all avatars. All the avatars are in Krishna, like Matsya, Kurma, everything is Krishna. And he is worshipped by all types of devotees. And Krishna is not different from Bhagavatam. So Krishna reveals the source, that thus reveals Krishna the source of all the incarnations. He is the source of Brahman, he is the source of Paramatma. So to establish this fact that Krishna is the source of everything, that is why this description of the material world, how Krishna creates the material world, is also there. So just by glance, he does this creation of this material world. And now comes the description of the whole universal form, cosmic form, and then from them, how the different elements and different presiding deities of those elements and different senses, they're all coming out. So now you have three again, that is Adi Daivam, Adi Atma, and Adi Bhuta. So what are the three? Adi Daiva means the presiding deity of the senses, the sense devatas, like you have hand, presiding deity is Indra. And Adi Atma means the subtle organ, which is there. Senses are in your mind. And Adi Bhuta means the gross organ, means the instrument. When I say I, it doesn't mean I. It is eyeball. I is in the mind. So you have three things here. The eye, which is in the mind, is eyeball. And the controller of the eye, that is sun. The Devi, sun, three things. And now eye is looking at what? An object, form. So ultimately you have four. One is the Devata. Number two, the sense organ, object of the senses. So how from the different, like mind, the mind of Krishna, Chandrama, Manaso, Jata, what manifested? Our mind manifested, mind of Krishna. But who controls the mind? The control of the mind is Chandra, also manifested. So from the mind, what do you think? There is a Shakti, that is to think. The potency to think, that also manifested. So though you may have this eyeball functioning nicely, but you may be blind because the potency to see is not there. The sense doesn't have it. So Krishna, in his universal form, he goes on creating all these different aspects. We see everything is nothing but creation of Krishna. To show that Krishna is source of everything, this description is required.
So Maharaj, the next section, slokas 36 to 47, where Visarga is explained. You've already done a fantastic job of explaining this earlier, how all the jivas are placed based on their karma in sthanam, in various positions, in various species. So, however, Maharaj, here we see that although Brahma is the first created being, he's empowered, he's given the ingredients, intelligence, everything, it's not a solo show. He is delegating this to Prajapatis, Rishis, and various empowered beings to populate the world. The other day, in a different context, you were also mentioning how Nothing happens individually, it takes teamwork. So, what can we learn about working together, especially as devotees, to make things happen?
I did not get your this thing.
So,
Online.
so Maharaj, Visarga part, you have already explained earlier when you were talking about the Visarga and the Sthanam also, how the various jivas are placed based on their karma in different positions in different species. So I didn't want to revisit that part of Visarga again. But however, as part of Anushilanam, practical application, I wanted to learn from you how in Visarga, although it is Brahma who is entrusted with the secondary creation, he is the first created being, but however, he delegates. There are Prajapatis, there are Rishis, and there are various other beings who are delegated with the power to do the populating of the universe. So, the other day, in a different context, you were talking about how it's not an individual thing, but it takes teamwork to make things happen. So, from Brahma, how he delegates, what can we learn about teamwork, especially devotees coming together and working together in a nice way to make beautiful things happen?
Yeah, one thing we should know that we are not gods or we are not God. I am not God. So I cannot do everything. And if you think I can do everything, then it's your illusion. So that's humility. So when you're humble, then you get the mercy of Krishna. When you get the mercy of Krishna, then things get accomplished. So that is why when you understand that I cannot do it, then you require some people to help you. That means you understand the interdependence, the system of interdependence. So when you understand the system of interdependence, then you'll get the mercy of Krishna. Then it'll be easy for you. So that's a simple technique.
Okay.
Yeah, Varanashrama. You cannot be a Brahmin, you cannot be Kshatriya, you cannot be Vaishya, you cannot be Shudra, all together. You require. How can you do everything alone? Sometimes people say, oh, I am alone, I am alone, I am alone. Nobody helping you. You don't want their help, that is the problem. People will help you. If you want, they'll help you. If you don't want, you want to be Sarve Sarva, what I can do for that? You want to be God. Even then, if you want to be God, even God cannot help you.
Great. So, Maharaj, the 47th verse where Sukadeva Goswami is wrapping this up. Parimanam chakalasya kalpalakshana vigraham yata purastad vyakyase padmam kalpam atoshrunu. O king, I shall in due course explain the measurement of time in its gross and subtle features with the specific symptoms of each, but for the present let me explain unto you the Padma Kalpa. So, Maharaj, it's very interesting how this chapter comes to a conclusion. Here, Shukadeva Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit, I'll tell you about measurement of time. Let me explain to you about Padma Kalpa. And then suddenly, there is a twist that Shaunaka Rishi interrupts. And he is telling Suta Goswami that I would like to hear about Vidura Maitreya Samvada. So, why is there this abrupt disruption to this conversation? Shukadeva Goswami is telling he's going to say something, and then Shaunaka Rishi is asking about something different.
Now, Sutta Goswami tells the Shaunak Rishis what all questions were asked by Parikshit Maharaj are already explained by Maitreya to Vidura.
Okay.
That is why he says, Rajnya Parikshit Prushto Yad Avojan Mahamunihi Tatvo Abhidhasye Shrunuta Rajnya Prashnanusarataha. So please listen, because whatever you have asked, Parikshit Maharaj had asked Sukadeva Goswami, that has already been described by whom? Described by Maitreya to Vidura. So that is why Sukadeva Goswami, he speaks the Vidura Maitreya Samvad.
Okay.
This is how it goes further.
Okay. Nice. So, Maharaj, moving on to the very last segment, that is our rapid fire round Brahmastra segment. So in this whole canto, Maharaj, there were so many samvadas going on. In the outer context, there is Suta Goswami and Shaunakadi Rishis. Then there is Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. Then within that, we saw Brahma Narada Samvada. Then the Lord having conversation with Brahma, Chatushloki, Bhagavatam. So now this segment is going to be where you get to choose the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. To make it a dozen, I'll add two more. So where you can choose anybody who you would like to have a samvada with to get deeper into these topics. So I'll mention one topics of the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. Then you choose with whom you want to have a conversation with on this specific topic.
Who means the character should be from Bhagavatam?
Anybody, whoever you want. So the very first topic, Sarga, about primary creation.
Yeah, I would like to hear from Brahma himself.
Okay. Brahma, Padma, Bhakti Padma Swami Maharaj Samvada. Okay. Visarga, secondary creation.
That I would like to hear from Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
What about Sthanam?
Sthanam from Yamaraj.
Oh, Jai.
It was the best. Who is Karma.
So many Mahajanas. Very nice. Poshanam.
Poshanam. I like to hear from Indra, because even Indra was protected by Krishna in many ways, in spite of he being Indra. You know Indra very well.
Very nice. Interesting. Okay. Manvantara.
Manvantara. I hear from Vamandev.
Why
He came
Maharaj?
to protect him because he is the present Manvantara avatar.
Oh, that connection. Okay. Uti.
Uti. Uti. Prahlad Maharaj.
Okay. Ishanukatha.
Ishanukatha. I'd like to hear from Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami. Okay. What about Nirodha?
Nirodha, again, Lord Shiva is a bit Rudras, 11 Rudras.
Okay. Mukti.
Mukti, Amrish Maharaj, because he served Krishna.
Beautiful. What about the ultimate? Ashraya.
Srimati Radharani.
Oh, Jai. And just to make it a dozen, I'll ask two more. So if you had an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, how to be creative, innovative in terms of outreach, preaching endeavors, who will you converse with?
So, to talk about some preaching endeavors,
Yes,
whom should I
yes,
speak?
yes.
Preaching endeavors. Okay, I'd like to speak to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Brilliant. Okay, the last one. Being a monk in a digital world, who will you talk about this topic? Talk to.
Maybe you.
Me. Okay. That is why Pariprashna is going on. Preaching in the digital world. Jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj. You're bringing Bhagavatam to life. You are like shining the light, a lamp where we are able to see Bhagavatam in a more practical, living way. It is not just a scripture now, it is actually a living text which is guiding our spiritual journeys. Many of the people are reaching out through personal messages and comments saying that how much this conversation is really giving them that inspiration to go deeper into Bhagavatam. So, eternally indebted to you, Maharaj. Please continue to bless us with your association. So we are just wrapping up second canto. If you can please make the time in spite of your busy schedule to enlighten us on the further cantos also, we will be ever grateful to you. So Hare Krishna devotees, there we go. We are quote unquote wrapping up the glorious second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But starting from canto 3, we are going to get into Vidura Maitreya Samvada. There is going to be so much to discuss there about so many interesting topics. But so don't go anywhere. Please keep coming back. Every Saturday, a new episode of Pariprashna is going live. Tell your friends and all the devotee community, whoever you know, so they can also access these episodes. It's all available on Aradhana online. So we will catch you very soon. Until then, take care. And as always, stay inquisitive and stay Krishna conscious. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.